Hello, welcome to What the Feminine, where we will show the world how to have crucial, nuanced conversations and how healthy feminine and masculine embodiment are the gateway to global healing. I'm Nicole George, the CEO and founder of Sovereign Magazine, and as the host and moderator of this show, I'd like to remind our guests and audience that the questions posed in today's episode are neither a reflection of my personal beliefs, opinions, thoughts, or ideologies, nor of Sovereign Magazine's. They're simply a guide for us to go deeper into our constructed beliefs and ask ourselves, how can we remain open and curious to being recoded to a more compassionate, cohesive way of living? The content in this episode could contain references to topics and difficult subject matter that may be triggering for you, so please honor yourself and inner knowing. Our show is never a substitute for any professional guidance. Please always seek the guidance of a certified professional. Today we have three incredible, gorgeous guests. One is going to be just a smidge late, so she'll come in a little bit, who will introduce themselves. And we're going to be talking about from unhealed to whole, reframing toxic masculinity and femininity. So welcome to the show. We're going to start with Coach Terra Dawn.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I am Coach Terra Dawn. I am coming in from Alberta, Canada, and my work is focused around the inner child and abandonment wounding. And I dabble in on the masculine and feminine, probably more than dabble, also mixing in some human design into it. So, really, it's about getting to the core of who we are and who we were intended to be.
Yes. Okay, Velva Dawn.
So I am coming from High River, Alberta, Canada. And what everything is changing today, being the 26th, there's a lot of fire in the house. But I feel like what I do is I've worked with the divine feminine for years. Since 2013, I've really been doing this deep work. And I really help people regulate their nervous systems, realize outdated patterns, timelines through coaching sessions. And being an author is one of my favorite things to do. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here today. Okay, so let's talk about and define for people. And we decided on a previous show in 2025 that we weren't going to call it toxic masculinity and femininity anymore, that we were going to call it as a group and collective unhealed. So, for those who might not know what it is, what is the difference between toxic and unhealed? And what are we trying to heal? Who wants to go first?
I'll tackle that first. So, the difference between toxic and unhealed really is that's a reframing all on its own. It takes us from something that is judgmental to something that is compassionate. When we can acknowledge that, toxic, when we think of toxic masculinity and femininity, we often think about the ragey, we think about the things that come out that is like the red flag behaviors and personality traits. The reality is that when we hold these same people with compassion and empathy, and we recognize, and this where it speaks into the work that I do, when we recognize we have a little 5-year-old that wasn't nurtured and taken care of, we recognize that these behaviors are really a culmination of not having what they needed and their needs being met as a child. So in the essence is that when somebody is behaving in a way that looks toxic, we get the opportunity to look at them as the 5-year-old and realize how much wounding is there. And when we can recognize their wounding, we have a different perspective on who they are as a human being, and remembering that they're a human being in this human experience. They just haven't shifted into their healing era yet.
Oh, I love that so much. That is so, so true. And we all are our little children inside having little temper tantrums at times. So as we can nurture them and honor them, really, it does become a situation where we are healing from within. Okay, Velva Dawn, why don't you go? And then Crystal will give you a chance to to introduce yourself and share on this topic.
I love I love this topic. So to me, unhealed is unconscious, right? You're not conscious that you're acting from pain or fear or survival, whereas toxic is control, manipulation, and it's often conscious. It's repeated. So to me, that's the two difference. It's like unhealed people can become healed and toxic refuses accountability, right? We've all been in that situation where you're speaking your truth, you're giving your standards of what you need in a relationship, but it's toxic because they're refusing accountability and they're not willing. And so when we look at the feminine and we look at the people pleasing to feel worthy, right? It's like, it's unhealed. It's not toxic. It's just what is unconsciously been flowing from watching your mom and how she deals with things and so on and so on. So that's the difference that I see between unhealed and toxic. And it's true that the unhealed can become healed. And that's kind of what we're doing in this world.
Yeah, one step at a time, one person at a time, one show at a time, aren't we? Trying to heal it all and raise the vibration of the collective. And I love that you pointed out the lack of accountability. And, there's also this breeding of acceptance when we're like, oh, they're just toxic, right? And we just kind of brush it off as that's part of who they are. Whereas when we're saying unhealed, that means there's some work to do and we are holding them accountable. So I really love that reframe. Thank you so much. Okay, Crystal, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. Why don't you share a little bit about who you are? And then the question is, what is the difference between unhealed and toxic?
Okay, well, I'm Crystal Cockerham, crystalcockerham.com. I am a red tent facilitator, a spiritual mentor, an author, and I love working with women to help them really learn to go within, build that feminine container, trust their intuition, and really step into their sovereignty so they can live their truth, right? It's so empowering. So that's me in like a teeny tiny little seed. um, Toxic versus unhealed. Whether it's in the feminine or the masculine, I feel like it's at some point it's a choice. So I'm sorry, Tara, I only heard part of what you said. And I did hear all of yours, Velva, so thank you. And toxicity is, I think, it's simplistic in its complexity, in the fact that all you have to say is toxic and everybody knows what it means, or they think they know what it means, right? Like toxic, the skull and the crossbones, like stay away, keep it away kind of thing. Not for me. I want to clear that. I want to purge that. And we can have toxic relationships and toxic woundings, right? And we can choose to heal. So I feel like in a way, if you're healing something that's toxic, whether you have severed a toxic relationship, you still have to heal from that toxicity, you know? And that is a conscious choice. And so for me, that is dipping into the divine feminine and creating that space, that container in which all of that can unfold. And then also utilizing that sacred masculine energy in initiating and inciting the healing and taking those conscious steps to really bring it through to fruition in all of its renditions, so to speak, right? Because you can go through and you can heal something and you can just be so happy. And then a month, a year, 10 years down the road, you can see, oh, there's another layer there. I'm going to choose to go in and heal that next aspect. And I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't do my background. That's my
That's
sharing.
okay. Yeah, you'll get that. You'll get there. I knew you would. I'm really relaxed about these types of things. It'll just, somebody said, with all the AI around, it is in the flaws that we will realize we are all real. So I'm embracing all the flaws, all the mistakes, because then people know we're real. Okay. So I love it. I love it. So the next big question is, okay. I've identified either within me or within a relationship that I have that perhaps there is some unhealed femininity or masculinity, and I'd like to move towards being more whole within myself. Where do I begin? What steps can I take to begin on this journey? Because it's a big one. It's a big one. So, who wants to tackle that? Uh-oh, we have silence. Who wants to
My
go
brain's
first?
going in about six different
I
directions.
know.
It's like,
Okay. Oh, well, share them all. You don't have to say just one.
um, when I look back to my own journey, because, it really wasn't that long ago that I was sitting in the unhealed. Um, and when I look back to my own journey, for me, it became surrounding myself with examples of women that were healing and healthy, like further ahead in their path than I was. And then to also surround myself with men that were doing their work as well. And it's being able to identify the difference between the healed and unhealed, because a lot of people don't even know the difference. They don't recognize, they think that if they are people pleasing, that because generationally they were taught that that is the true definition of a woman, was to serve and I'm like, that's not the true definition. It's being able to sit in receiving and really to have boundaries and to have self-respect and to have, not to be the doormat. And so I think it really, like, where to start, it's surrounding yourself with people who know what that looks like, allowing people to show that example, because many of us don't have any example to glean from. And
Yeah.
that sounds really simplistic, but at the end of it all, we don't know how to change it if we don't see the example of what's different or how to be different. And I'm going to give dibs to and credits to Velva Dawn, because she was part of that shift in my own journey, because she exemplifies that healed and sturdy and self-respecting feminine that I aspired to be.
That sovereign woman, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to go next, Velvedon?
Yeah, thank you, Tara, for saying that. I just think how we met is, the pinpoint of, here we are, right, in a
Mm-hmm.
different state. And I'm grateful
Mm-hmm.
for that. For you, for the women that are like, hey, let's go, let's do
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, it is like, how do you go there? There's so much available to us right now in community, whether it's online, if you're on TikTok and you're putting in, where do I begin as an unhealed, woman, with my feminine traits? Most of all is, I mean, it's just right at our fingertips. It's knowing the right words to put in. And then that connects you to all these different links, to the magazines, to the healers, to the groups. I feel like when your intention becomes clear, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to work on for winding down the snake year, moving into the fire horse. What can I begin to do? What books can I read, right? Even go on Amazon, Google, self-help books for learning to love yourself, because that's where it all begins, to really understand. And even knowing the difference, am I unhealed feminine, or do I have toxic feminine, right? Because if you were raised, which I was, with a mother who was very toxic, and still to this day is, and I had to remove myself from that situation, and then I began to heal because I created space between the relationship And I started understanding that she's just chosen to stay where she is, and that's okay. But I get a choice to who I surround myself with. So that's what I would do, is really look at your own patterns, your own behavior, and look at your circle. Like, who's surrounding me? Are these women reciprocal? Are they women that have goals and they're following through? Because that's where I want to be. I want to surround myself with that type of energy versus gossip and jealousy and the heavy, unhealed slash toxic feminine. We've all been around it, and you know what it feels like. It either feels like, okay, I don't know if I quite fit in to where I want to go here with these uplifted women that are bad boss babes, or back to the old friendship circle that I've had since 1989, and we're not moving anywhere. We're just recircling. So I feel like it's just focus and awareness of where you are at, and then using anything you need to as resources to get moving forward, to have that momentum and to begin shedding the layers. It's a perfect time right now to do that.
It really is. And I also want to let people know that there are times that your inner circle, they're louder in your head than you are for yourself. So for me, it was that separation from estranging myself from a parent that allowed me to begin my healing journey, because her voice was so loud. I could not hear myself, my intuition. And so sometimes that separation is what you need in order to begin the journey, because they are so impactful on your life. I'm not recommending it for everyone, but
Mhm.
if you can't hear yourself, you need to turn up the dial however you need to get there. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a very important point at the beginning of this journey, is not only seeking out the books and stuff, but can you hear yourself? Can you tap in? All right, Crystal, what about you?
Um, for me, I want to piggyback off of what you all have said, but I also want to share, Velva, thank you for sharing that about your mom, because I feel like you spoke for me in that as well. And especially when it is a parent or someone that is so close to you throughout your whole life, like that is, it's just so hard, right? To take those first steps, because I like to relate it to when a baby starts walking on their own, right? Like they're holding on, they're holding on. It's kind of like that voice is holding you back. And like when you first take those steps, you're like wavering, right? Like back and forth, like, is this for real? Is this really me? Or is this somebody else speaking? So really, yeah, for me, it is getting quiet and sitting in the yeses, sitting in the nos, and sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to like speak louder in your head. So I know that I've used this before, just not on this show. So we all have the, negative Nancy voice, and we have the conditioned self voice, and then we have that voice of our spirit, and sometimes that voice of our spirit gets drowned out, but then there's the us in the now, and sometimes it's easy, especially at the beginning, to forget that you have the power to quiet and turn the volume down on some of those, right? And choose which one you're going to sit with first and in the now, and that's a really powerful practice.
It is, and I find it interesting. And Terra Dawn, you can raise your hand and let us know if you're one too. But 3 out of 4 of us have had motherly figures who are toxic and unhealed, if we want to say that. And I find that that is no small sample size. Many, many, many women I speak with have had some sort of motherly figure. It might not be directly their mom. Mom was a stepmom, who was extremely unhealed. And as you so beautifully put it, Velva Dawn, unwilling to change or look at their situation, which is completely their choice. And that's when I had to step away. And so when you are pushed up against these unhealed energies that distort the definition of love and connection, how do we deal with that?
I would love to jump in on this. I think this is actually a lot of the work I'm doing with my children right now. My older two are in their 20s, and it's teaching them that they cannot be afraid to disappoint me as long as it's not illegal. And so it's one of those things that I think we became people pleasers. I know we became people pleasers from the walking, talking stage because we got the good girl. And it's being willing to step out of the good girl and stepping into the individual self. It's the, and being okay with disappointment. You know, my mom and I don't have the most cohesive relationship. And I've been no contact with my dad for 17 years, and both plays in really significantly in my experience. And so it's when we don't have the supportive parent that nurtures or supports the healing, then we look like the bad guy. So we become very rebellious in their view. And that's why I have adopted that with all of my programming, is about being in a rebellion. And leading with being okay with disappointing others, which when we can sit in that, that's a space of individuality that spells freedom, but it's so risky and scary when it comes to all of our circles. So as you guys were talking about friend circles and that sort of thing, it means that things are going to shift drastically. And everybody I talk to right now, especially in the collective, everybody feels like they are completely discombobulated because they're losing friends. They're like, people are dropping off, and not because we're making choices to cut them off. It's because our evolution, this work into the feminine and really balancing our energies, is threatening to those people who aren't doing the work. And that's the risk.
Yeah.
That's the rebellion.
100%, 100%. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go next. So boundaries, it's like this is what we all need, right? It's like, how do you feel when you're around them? Okay, it doesn't feel good. I feel tired. I have a headache. And it's just like we're losing steam for those surface conversations in addition to the unhealed environment. And so it's not even a choice anymore. It's like it's a priority. It's like your nervous system needs these things to be put in place right now. So it's the boundaries. It's like, this is not going to work for me, not explaining why. It's just a no, and letting go of all of that. So it's about, you don't need to decide who they are. You only need to start deciding what you're going to allow. So it's kind
Yes.
of this new mantra that I have for this year is, what am I going to allow into my field? What feels good? And really taking things slower, creating more pause, more time in the void where it's just me that I'm hearing. So I'm certain before I make a move.
I love that so much. I love that so much because that is really pause, allowing. Those are like some of my major words right now. Just I love that. Ah, such yummy content. Okay, Crystal.
Um, so I love the taking the time, um, because that's something that I really, last year, as part of my last year journey, I was forced to do. Like, I didn't have a choice. I had to, with the outside forces and the things that were happening. And it's hard. Like, when you're so used to just being in that flow and getting this beautiful inspiration or having this thought or this idea, like acting on it. And when that next step is just like cut off from you, um, for whatever reason, it is really hard to sit in that and to let that grow, right? Because it's so far beyond like a visualization or a meditation where you're tapping into what you're calling forward and you want to reach that feeling, like you're kind of caught in that bubble so that you can look at all the teeny tiny little things that you normally wouldn't see unless you were going through it. When you spoke about people falling off and asking, does this feel good to me? Am I going to allow this? Isn't it so oddly humorous that we can so readily choose to not go somewhere or do something because it doesn't feel good? But when there's another person involved, we feel the need to keep trying. So it's that permission piece. So yeah, the pause, but I want to add that permission piece, like just give yourself permission. It's okay. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
let
We're
yourself
so
go there.
stuck. Yeah, we're so stuck in the people pleasing and the conditioning that we, don't allow ourselves the opportunity to say no, or perhaps another day, or that's not working for me. And I think that as we heal ourselves, several words come to mind for me: choice, preferences, different timelines. I think that that is one of the things that has opened up for me the most, is recognizing that my highest timeline might not be somebody else's or vice versa, and allowing that to be, and trusting the energetic exchange, and um, providing preferences and choices to everyone, because we're not all the same and we do things differently, and honoring myself and them in the process. All right, as we wind down, what would be your one takeaway for somebody who is working on becoming more whole and working on their unhealed femininity and masculinity? One takeaway. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
A super duper crystal clear, powerful intention, and couple that with conscious action, right? Always tapping in, your allies, your divine guides, they're there, they want to help you, but they're not going to just step in and like do it for you. You have to ask them, right? So just keeping your eye on that prize and asking yourself, does this help me get there?
Yes. Yes. Love that. Who's next?
I would like to build on that and add in learning to get quiet and sit with ourselves. A lot of people aren't even comfortable shutting down the noise and shutting out the noise. Doing a noise detox is probably one of the hardest things that we can do, because we're so addicted to our devices and addicted to contact that is surface. And when we have taken time to truly sit with ourselves, we're asked to face ourselves. And when we face ourselves, we start to understand, it's like, oh, I don't really love that anymore. Or this person like really asks a lot of me, and there isn't much reciprocated. When we can see, and this is a phrase that I've actually started to sit with in my own personal circles. It's like, I'm a friend to many, but there aren't very many that are friends to me. They're not my go-to people, and they can't be my go-to people just because of different experiences, where they are in their own work. They don't relate on this level. So when I look in this circle, I can have conversations with any one of you. You could be a go-to person. Not everybody's going to be your go-to person. So really defining who you're friends to, but they're maybe not friends to you the same way. It allows us to kind of run things through a filter, and it's not out of judgment. It's about alignment, and really get to decide what that looks like on the long term, so that we can learn to sit with ourselves and really learn our own preferences, because we don't know at the beginning of this journey. We have no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I didn't know who I was at the beginning at all. I was my conditioned self. And I love that you're doing an inner circle audit based on the reciprocity of what you are and aren't receiving because it should be reciprocal. I love that so much. Okay,
I
Velva
do.
Dawn.
And can I just like
Yeah.
share like my little thing? At the beginning of my journey, I kept saying, I can't wait to meet me. I can't wait to meet myself. Right. And over the last couple of years, that has shifted into um, I love who I am and who I'm becoming, right? Because it's a consistent and constant evolution. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
constant. People think you do your healing and then it's done. It like never stops, like you were talking about earlier, peeling back layers and new layers and more layers. And oh, I didn't even know that needs to come up again. So I love that. Okay, Velva Dawn.
Isn't that true? So many layers. What I feel for this is the message I want to leave is these aren't polarities about becoming softer and stronger. It's about becoming rawly honest with yourself and those around you. It's like it's wholeness. That's what you're sinking into. And that changes the presence. It changes everything because you are embodying all of that. And when you embody it, it radiates through your field and everything begins to trickle away or move in closer.
Yes, and I'd like to leave everyone with a little visual. As you were talking, I got the vision of a baby. A baby is real and raw and not afraid to cry for everything that it needs, right? Not apologetic for anything. And so we come into this world whole and then we are conditioned away from that. And so if we can move towards that and our needs and preferences and all of those things we will move towards our wholeness again. All right, thank you so much to each of you, and if you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed, please do so you can get the little ding for the next one, which will be coming in a couple of weeks. We'll have more guests on the show. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Thank you.